Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by the Friends of Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
Everybody's just folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just people all over the world. Folks to live, folks got to give, folks got to care, ooh, folks got to share. Our world is small, so very small. What touches one of us, ooh, touches us all. To stay alive, just to survive, folks got to be in harmony. Everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody's just folks, everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody's just folks.
Hello and welcome to Folks. This week on Folks, we begin our program by honoring those men and women who gave their lives during the wars and other military conflicts that have become so much a part of the American heritage. This week we will observe Veterans Day, and perhaps the best way to remember veterans on Veterans Day is to remember the tragedies that they must have endured during the long and tragic years of war. Most American veterans are considered heroes because they went to war in order to fight for peace around the world. But there's one war which America lost, and its warriors are neither considered heroes or even very positive American images.
The war is one thing, and many things did happen that should not have happened. But when you come back home, you serve your country, you're looking for employment, and each time you're told, no, there are no openings for Vietnam vets because you're a bunch of drug addicts, you're baby killers, rapists, then where do you go? And if I'm told this enough, then I will begin to believe it. And this is basically what happened to the Vietnam vet. And the media played a very significant role in painting the Vietnam veteran in a very derogatory sense. In World War II, John Wayne and Gregory Peck were heroes, and it was all over TV in the movies that these guys went to war, became heroes, and came back. In Vietnam, it was all over the movies and TV that these guys were a bunch of crazy maniacs who robbed banks and ripped off society. And society believes this.
The Vietnam War was America's highest-rated primetime television newsreel during the 60s. Through modern technology, the war was telecast in living color every night and reinforced every day with newspapers and magazines. But the war pictures Americans saw of their servicemen weren't flattering.
Society confused the war with the warrior. Society saw Vietnam on the 6 o'clock news. And in doing so, if you've never been in war, then anytime a person is killed before your eyes, it's an awful experience.
Many Americans took out their hostility about the Vietnam War on the men they saw on TV carrying the guns and waving the American flag, a protest many of the servicemen couldn't understand when they returned home.
They're not able, for the most part, to relate to the country and what has happened since the late 60s and early 70s. As you know, during that period, we went through a transition of civil rights movements, individuality, doing your own thing. And much of that was pointed at the Vietnam vet in terms of trying to fight for his country, but at the same time trying to accept the fact that his country did not support him. 80% of the Vietnam era veteran has been able to get his life back together. But there's a significant portion, 20%, that have not, and these are the ones that we have primarily seen at the Vet Center.
I remember times when I have sat in my own bedroom, and I've never told anybody this. This is the first time any of you will hear it. And I've actually looked at myself and said, what is wrong with me? What's the matter? You know, what's going on out here? You know, something went wrong. You know, what is it? What happened? Is something wrong with me? Did I, you know, I feel the same. You know, get up, I look in the mirror, I look the same. What's the matter?
I don't have many friends now. For people that I knew, you know, they find me different. You know, I could feel it within them. You know, you know where guys, you know, was general a lot of times. Now guys stand on the outskirts. You know, they have defense. They wait for you to make a move. You know, they don't come out and make moves towards you. They wait on you to make a move. You know, my people treat me like I was a pet dog or something. Uncle Sam sent home. You know, be nice. You know, he might bite. Y'all don't upset him. You know. And it's just so many labels that have been placed on the vet. Too many labels, man. Too many stimulations.
The problems for vets trying to understand their rejection from society starts with their own inability to cope with their Vietnam experience. The Vet Center in New Orleans is one of the only places where vets can gather and talk without fear of more rejection.
The Vet Centers are important because they're primarily operated by Vietnam-era veterans who have been to Vietnam and who are sensitive to the problems of these men.
What I'm saying, I'm interested in
And it was
how you reacted to that, coming back into the States, trying to adjust, trying to get back into a lifestyle. How has all that affected you?
well, it has affected me to the point where coming into a society, first of all, not being totally accepted by society, because it's like in these cartoons, you have a question mark above your head. Every one of you in this room, you have a question mark above your head. Every straight person who's never been there or doesn't know anything about it, they look at the Vietnam vet, whether it was man or woman, that person has a question mark over his head. And that question mark depicts what's that person's stability as far as retaining a place in a normal society.
So I think what you're hitting at is that so many of us have experienced
Different things and
called baby killer, warmonger,
Yeah,
this kind of thing, that we began to believe it.
no, that society began to believe it to such a degree that when we became confronted with them, that was forced down our throats. We had to, you know, it was food for us to eat.
The problem is that the public as a whole, well, not the whole public, they really don't trust Vietnam veterans, because if everybody figured that either you're an alcoholic, you're a misfit, or you're a drug addict.
Or a thief.
Or a thief. And then if they hire you, they figure that you're going to break loose or something like that. And
What do you think that is?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Misconception.
think it's
media
misconception. Yeah, you're right.
The media labeled this sorry individual who became, I believe, one of the most feared fighting men that ever walked the earth.
Indeed.
Okay, and the thing that happened in Vietnam, God forbid it happened, but it happened. The military were wishy-washy people. They were trying to milk both ends from the middle. That's the kind of generals they were, and they had an opportunity to get rich quick buying large stocks in these small companies who had huge contracts, government contracts, to build what needed to be built in this war. So they went along with that. And when major decisions, military decisions had to be made, the generals, their heads were so clouded with other paraphernalia that politicians quickly saw that and quickly used that avenue as means to exert their opinion into the war and have it be readily accepted, to the point where not just the Pentagon was running that war, but the politicians had the upper hand. The Pentagon thought them out, and the politicians gave the okay.
Meaning you were on the losing end.
Right, we were in the back, we were in the back. We were going to get shot regardless of who told us, because it was just that too little too soon or too much too late. It was one of them deals. It was never a deal. It was never a situation to where you go in and you take over and you reestablish, and then you fan out and you build from that. You go in, you destroy, you take perimeter sweeps, you plant the flag, you throw some booby traps, and then you leave to give them some bull to deal with when they come back.
How do you feel all that's affected your life as far as how you responded?
Well, that's strictly politics, see? And politics has no business in a wartime situation.
They're very bitter, they're very angry, and quite frequently that anger turns into rage.
It seems to me now, and I can't understand why it is, nobody's really concerned as to why you did it, you know. But the fact is you did it, you know. Just like if I go out here and I sit on the corner up under the bridge every day and I just sit there and drink that wine. Well, nobody's interested as to why, what caused him to do that, you know. It's just the point of, hey, he's done that, he's through, you know. Hey, throw him out, you know, he's gone, you see. Because I can understand that. You were right. They would not have anything to do with you. I come through a tree line one afternoon. There's a lady, stark naked, 3-month-old baby strapped to her chest. She's laying on the tank mine. Nothing to do but, you know, no way to equalize her weight, you know. But when you come back here, you find out, man, that you go for help. You know, I went to United Way, oh man, Veterans Administration. I can't stand them. Don't go anywhere near them. You know, I went to a lot of organizations, Travelers Aid, those that broadcast, used to broadcast almost daily. You know, we are here. You know, united we stand, divided we fall. Man, I don't even know what the hell they were talking about.
Well, I think
I
you
go
hit
there
on
and
the
need some help.
problem
There
there
isn't
for
any.
all of us.
You know,
And that is that when we came back, it can be summed up this way. We felt invisible. We weren't thanked for anything, and we felt invisible.
okay, but all right.
Well, this is a sort of a summary, because this Roger was touching on that a moment ago.
Well, now, let's take, for instance, when you were working with me, Roger, who, for those of you who don't know, is my counselor, I was sleeping in buildings, vacant ones, and eating when I can. But yet, still, Vietnamese are right here, out east, driving what they want to drive, eating what they want to, you know, you see what I mean? Now, they didn't tell me, now they get there when I go for help, there ain't any help. But they didn't tell me that when they sent me 10,000 miles to that place right there, you know, to kill a race of people I didn't even know existed. You know? Now that I am very angry about. I do not trust the government, VA, nothing, nobody. I stay alone right now. I used to just hoard people around me. Right now, I stay alone. I got this here, you know, from people that are supposed to be brothers and sisters out here. Hey man, it's war right out here on the street.
When the guy that I grew up with, and I played ball with, actually turned against me in a lot of ways. They didn't have the same respect.
Why, because you were a veteran?
Because I was a veteran.
Did he saw you as a bad person or what?
Well, see, like I say, most time when I played sport, I loved it. I was always the type of person that I was a leader, like, amongst the guys that I grew up with. They mostly look up to me. But after I came back, you know, it all changed. I mean, like we said, we discussed it a couple of times. Nobody said, well, hey, man, how you feel? Is you all right?
The national heroes are
They asked me, how many did I kill?
What happened?
Man, what did you know?
There's a variety of problems, but the number one problem now is employment. Employment and a means of some type of respect or being acknowledged as being an individual who has fought for this country, has given some of himself.
All I have ever wanted, is to have me a job, a home, a family, and to be left the hell alone. That's all. And you can't get it here. You got constant pressure all over. So when you lash back, then you got a problem.
I came back into this country, man, and I started holding down some jobs, man. Like I said, people say, be tough, man. You know, stand up for what you believe in. And every time I would stand up on a job for something I believe in, I was handed a pink slip. See, well, you know, insubordination. You know, fit in, man.
Maybe you carried
got
it
a
out
bad
wrong.
attitude.
Maybe you carried it out wrong. Maybe you got a little too loud. There's nothing wrong with
No,
defending
but I
yourself.
didn't say every trip was their fault. I didn't say no that I was right about them all. But I found out this: if you speak your piece on them jobs, a lot of times you're gonna find yourself looking for another. Because
that's true for everybody.
and I mean, it could be little nothing, man. And then another thing that I learned what the government did, he coded a lot of discharges.
What do you see?
You did what?
He coded a lot of your discharge, your 214.
Yeah, them spin-off numbers.
They
Yeah, I
put
got a
codes on.
RE4, yeah.
And you go there to people, and they'll ask you, "Let me see your 214." I didn't know why at first.
I got an
And you had him that
RE4.
214, and they would go through the book and see them codes on it. And a lot of times you wouldn't get the job.
Yeah, when an employer sees that, and he sees the wrong codes, whether you're qualified or not, whether you've got the college education and the military training to do the job that this man wants to be done, he sees this code, and right away he's got paranoid schizophrenic.
That's a very good point. Our own
Then this guy, you know what this guy will do? This guy will say, well, we're going to hold this and we'll contact you within a few days.
Reagan the other night on TV was talking about they might not need the draft because now, once again, you can be proud to wear the uniform. Well, I was always proud I was a Marine.
All right.
I was always proud of that. They weren't proud of it. You understand? So all they doing every day, pushing it down your throat, and you beginning to believe that there ain't nothing out there for you.
Well, I've never lost any respect for what
A
I
lot
had
of this
to do
stuff
over
you
there
hear on the
to
newspaper.
survive.
No,
Here in the
I have no
newspaper.
remorse. I have no guilt.
I have
was
no
proud,
guilt.
and I still
And I still am
am proud.
proud.
Communists know better than
everybody else
anybody
will
that
know
we
their
didn't
game.
lose that war.
Right.
No,
That's those here that stayed home and carried the North Vietnamese flags in these demonstrations
People
and
like
chanted
Jane
Ho Chi
Fonda.
Minh, Ho Chi Minh.
Yeah.
Like Jane
Jane
They
Fonda.
want us to believe that we lost it, but we know better than
And
that.
a lot of them was our brothers, cousins, and sisters,
Oh, yeah.
and all that.
Oh, yeah.
So look how divided this country is.
University of
I
Berkeley.
came back, I was at the Nixon inauguration in '79. I was standing there at honor guard, as sergeant, and I had them throwing bottles at me, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
You
I
know?
am of the opinion that we didn't lose, we were withdrawn, which is comfortable for me, and regardless of what anybody feels about it, I didn't lose, and my friends didn't die for nothing.
I blame this system, this country, for letting these things happen. What I'm saying, somebody, somewhere down the line, have to take the responsibility for this.
The real problem with any of this, the Vietnam veteran, the problems he's having, all the circumstances involved, is how do we convey a positive picture of the Vietnam veteran to the public?
With
Because
love
we've
and
been
respect.
stereotyped, okay, and put into a little slot or a category that we really don't belong in.
The good news don't make it on television or radio. I mean, just like the Vietnam veteran who
Crosby.
who held the nurse hostage. I mean, that's made big news. They showed that the whole week. Okay, nobody shows any successful Vietnam veteran. You
I was
know,
already been told that by a newsman. I asked him. I worked in the man's house.
good news.
And he told me, we don't cover that because it don't sell news.
It don't sell news.
That's
Nobody
exactly
want
what
I
the
mean,
man told me.
I mean, the only thing that they're going to show is Vietnam veterans shooting up or something like that. But they never show the Vietnam veteran who's in school, who helping other people and things like that. Because you have a whole bunch of veterans, out helping other people. Because I'm one of them.
How many of them?
How
We're
many
doing the
of
same
them?
thing over there.
Always, and all the other things. What sells news is things that's somewhat sensational. And in all of the media, it's a mass media.
So who's writing
And you're selling it to a lot of people.
I ain't like that.
I'm not
You
like
know,
that either.
Bro, I
You're
could,
not guarding your name,
maybe
either.
years ago when they told me I had to do it, and I had to do it, that was one thing. But even now, I couldn't go out in the street and shoot anybody.
No.
I just couldn't do that and live with it, and deal with it myself. And I'm tired of people thinking that, bro. Everybody thinks that.
Only, like I say, now all I can do is survive what I was taught. When I get up in the morning, try and make a way. Hopefully I'll get old and just pass away like everyone else. But the way the country's the way I see the country, I'll never see peace.
You know, the only thing I can relate to now is what I'm doing or what I can help others try to do as far as adjusting in society.
We're
That's
trying to survive ourselves. We're not really worrying about what's going to happen 10, 20 years from now. We gotta try to get ourselves together and get with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Try to survive our own lives.
I see.
In our society, we've had to look forward to people looking down on us for things we think and things we do. Not because we want to, but because it was instilled in us, you know. We taught not to have any feelings, you know. If your buddy's laying next to you dead, you don't have any feelings for him. As far as trying to get up and do something for him that you want to do, you can't, because you got to move on. You got to keep killing and keep surviving.
We were supposed to be out there trying to change some of the things that this country's got us messed up in, you know. And now our children's got to suffer for it because we can't get our own self out of a hole, you know.
Well, we could do it, but I believe it would take everybody in this room and everybody in all the other groups working together.
Angola and Louisiana's other prisons are perhaps the best example of what has happened to many Vietnam veterans who couldn't cope. According to today's statistics on the inmate population, an estimated 30% are Vietnam veterans. After talking to several incarcerated vets who were imprisoned on charges of rape, armed robbery, and murder, there seems to be a gray area in which they claim they wouldn't have committed their violent crimes if it hadn't been for the Vietnam experience.
My tour to Vietnam was exciting and adventurous in a way. When I arrived in Vietnam at Cam Ranh Bay, they were bombing it the first night that I got there. I specialized in infantry, light weapons and infantry. After about 6 days of being in Vietnam is when I came into real live contact, having firefights with the enemy. And the first experience was very, very frightening. And it somewhat caused me to think that I shouldn't have been there. But then, too, I knew I had to survive.
33-year-old William Edward Thomas is a Vietnam veteran who earned a National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, and 2 Bronze Service Stars during his assignment to the war. But that was more than 12 years ago. Today he is an inmate in the maximum security Angola State Penitentiary. Thomas is serving a life sentence for killing a store owner during a holdup not long after he returned from Vietnam. Thomas is one of several inmates who claims the war trained them to be violent and taught them to kill on command.
When I say that I was trained to kill, I consider basic training and advanced infantry training. We were first taught discipline, to discipline ourselves, and then to obey orders. And after that, you train with weapons. You take these and you learn them, like you would learn about a camera that you operate, something that you learn them and you learn what they're for, and they're for to kill with. And after that, you train to use them, to protect yourself, to advance on the enemy and destroy them. Then you're taught hand-to-hand combat in case you don't have a weapon. So you're taught to kill in many ways, not just with the weapons, but with your hands also.
You said that when you came home, that your parents and your family and your friends recognized that there was something different about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I came home, I tried to be the way that I was before I left. And they were very agreeable with me. They gave me a warm reception. They gave me a coming home party. But then, too, when they would mention me not being myself, somewhat off balance, this would offend me. I was offended by that. But they did recognize something at that time that I didn't.
Are you saying that your experiences in Vietnam had some bearing on the murder that you committed in the States?
I would say definitely so. And I have reasons to feel that way. Prior to my tour to Vietnam, I didn't think the way I was thinking that night. I didn't think the way I was thinking during the time that shortly after I come from Vietnam. I think that if I hadn't had the kind of training that I had, I don't think that I would have been there armed that night. When I come back from Vietnam, I felt as though it was a necessity to carry a weapon. And if a situation would arise, that I would use it.
So what happened that particular night?
On that particular night, I think more or less that we were somewhat tripping out, and they went by a place where a guy was in a store, and their intention was to rob, and I was on that night with them, armed also and aware of what was going on. And while in there, one of the guys that was there with me, he hollered a word that I was very familiar with, shoot, shoot, and I responded. I responded quickly, as if though I was still, in Vietnam.
And you responded by?
Shooting.
To kill?
To kill.
Did you?
I did.
An inmate organization called Incarcerated Vets was organized at Angola a few years ago to help the Vietnam veterans sort out their anxieties connected with the war. According to coordinator of the organization, Ashanti Witherspoon, what he sees in Thomas is typical of vets behind bars.
If everybody came back with the same kind of attitude or with the same kinds of, let's say, flashbacks or training or whatever, right, the United States would be in trouble if all the Vietnam veterans went out and killed somebody just because of a flashback or something triggered an old attitude.
See, sometimes these flashbacks, or as they say, the triggering or bringing back some type of psychological response, it doesn't necessarily respond in actually somebody being killed. Sometimes it responds in a fight. Sometimes it just responds in a sense of frustration or deep depression. And that's what, I guess that would be the proper term, a delayed deep depression. And sometimes this depression would only come as a means of, or let's say it would be shown through a means of just withdrawing from society. Veterans have come to the agency and they've talked about their experiences, and they've mentioned that when they felt this depressed feeling, some of them have just sat back, locked themselves in the bathroom, and just sat down and cried.
I feel that my experience in Vietnam had a great bearing on the crime that I committed. When I come back, I didn't have a psychological evaluation. I didn't go on observation or anything like that. I just come back into the state. And they started that some years later. But today, if they would call out to Vietnam veterans and say to them that we're sorry we didn't recognize you when you first got back. We know that you did go through a horrible experience, and maybe some of you might need some help. If you feel as though you need some help, step forward. We're going to offer the help that you feel as though you need.
Before we end our program tonight, I wanted to leave you with one little footnote. The views and expressions by the Vietnam vets in our story do not typify those of Vietnam vets all over the country. They're just individual expressions of concerns. But perhaps there's one thing that we can all learn from tonight's program, and that is if you know a veteran, regardless of whether he's from Vietnam, World War II, Korea, or World War I, go by and see him this week and let him know you care. We'll see you again next week on Folks. Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by the Friends of Louisiana Public Broadcasting.